Okay, hello girls, hello boys. This is where we finished last class. So I just made some corrections because the slides have some mistakes. For example, over here, this was written with a mistake in spelling conjunctural time. I have corrected this, so I will upload the presentation with these corrections. And also over here, remember that it said um, 5th century starts in 400 BC. It said BC, so I already developed the abbreviation, and now it says it starts in the 410 after Christ. And remember that it is going to be the date in which the 5th century starts, because it is going to be the date in which Alaric is going to sack Rome. And for most historians, this already represents the fall of Rome. But Rome is going to continue, the Western Empire is going to continue for 66 more years. So remember that all of these are hypotheses. So I am proposing as a hypothesis that this 5th century is going to last precisely those 66 years, from the first fall of Rome to the last fall of Rome that we are going to see just in a few moments. So, even if we said, and this is not wrong, this is still true, but even if we said that we are going to be seeing the centuries to really deep points in all the processes that are going to be happening, I am, however, going to focus a lot in this presentation and in this class in what is going to be happening with the Visigoths, because remember that Alaric was the leader of the Visigothic foederati. And this is going to be the main problem with Rome. Remember that we were saying that Rome had a lot of issues because of their racism. Sorry, and you pointed that out in the questions that I gave you in order to gain some participations. Yes, the racism in Rome is going to be a problem, but I want you to think on something, because this is something really common. It is not something that is peculiar to Rome. Every single society and every single, well, I am going to say civilization, and you already know that civilization is a racist word, but all societies and all cultures are going to have something of racist. I am going to refer to some examples now about some tribes, in this case about some South American tribes and about some Middle American tribes. We have seen what is Middle America, what is the region called Middle America in geography. Also some Northern American tribes, and all of these tribes, and also all around the world, but some of the best examples are, of course, these tribes. Even the Jewish people, well, perhaps the Jewish people is even a better example, because all of these peoples are going to be calling themselves the real people, the chosen people, and of course, all the other peoples are going to be less than that. For example, think about the Jewish. If the Jewish people are the chosen people, the people chosen by God, then the rest of the peoples are not going to be chosen by God, and thus they are going to have an inferior status. And also, usually the name of the name of the tribes, the name that each society gives to themselves, is usually going to mean the true men, the true humanity, the ones that are really men. And that is something peculiar. I really want you to think, and I really want you to make the reflection on how our own society is racist. For example, think about all these people that came from Central America and that are migrating and that are trying to reach the United States. And I want you to tell me, don't you think that when all these people were walking and crossing Mexico trying to reach the United States, didn't you see a lot of racism in our own society facing these peoples that are trying to get a better life? Well, the Romans were something like that. The thing is that, yes, they were really racist and they were calling barbarians everyone that weren't Romans themselves. But don't you think, haven't you noticed that every time that you see somebody that doesn't follow your customs, that doesn't do the things as you do them, don't you also think about them as barbarians? When you go to other towns and you see, for example, what I have told you, when you see that they are not eating with forks, that they are not using knives and spoons, and they are only using tortillas, or even that they are eating with their hands, don't you think of them like being kind of savage, like being kind of barbaric? Well, I will tell you a personal experience. I know that I usually tell you that I do not admit personal experiences because we all have a lot of them, and we wouldn't finish with the classes if we would pay a lot of attention to personal experiences. But I have a cousin that lives in the UK, and she has a lot of contact with well, you know that in the UK there lives people from all around the world, and for example, she really considers, and she's Mexican, right? So think about that first, but she really considers Chinese people, she really considers Indian people to be kind of savage because, for example, this custom of the Indians, of the Indian people, and I'm referring to the people coming from India. She considers this custom about eating with their hands, and they do it with their hands. Sorry about the noises. I sometimes move the phone, and it sounds weird. Weird. She considers this custom about eating with their hands as something kind of barbaric and as something uncivilized. And also, she considers a lot of the traditions and a lot of the customs coming from the Chinese people as being somehow barbaric. And for example, I want you to think about that. Now that we are having this health emergency about the coronavirus, aren't people being really racist with the Chinese people about the things that they eat? Because remember that one of the hypotheses, and it is just a hypothesis, on how this virus started and how this infection started spreading was because Chinese people eat bats, and it is highly probable that the bats were the ones carrying the coronavirus, and through their meat and through their corpses, the virus started spreading to humanity. And thus, we're starting to think in a really racist way about Chinese people being barbarians because they are eating these animals that we usually do not eat, and because of them eating these animals, we are having this health emergency. I would really recommend to you, if you want to know more about this mechanism, because this is a mechanism common to the whole humanity, in which we blame everything that is different for everything wrong that is happening. Um, if we have a crisis, we're going to blame everyone that does things differently than us for that crisis. And that book is called The Scapegoat, and it was written by René Girard. So I would really recommend you this book because we usually tend to do that. We usually tend to blame everyone that is different from us for everything wrong that is happening in the world. So Romans actually did that. Actually, Nero, do you remember Nero, the Roman emperor that was from the same house as Julius Caesar, that was of the same lineage, following Octavius and following Caligula. Nero was actually one of these guys that used to blame other people from all the disgraces that happened in Rome. When there is a really famous passage in history in which Rome had a big fire and they weren't able to control the fire, and thus Rome was burnt. And Nero actually blamed the Jewish people because, well, they were Jewish, they were different, so he blamed the Jewish people for the fire in Rome. So that is a really common mechanism in humanity in which we tend to blame different people from us for everything wrong that is happening, and we shouldn't do that. So it is important that we are able to identify that mechanism and stop doing it, because history is filled with lessons, and these kind of lessons are important for us nowadays. They are reflected in our reality nowadays. As I was telling you, for example, with coronavirus, or everyone that is different from us. Now we're going to focus in the 5th century, and we're going to be trying to characterize the 5th century, because as we were saying over here, what we are going to be doing is taking a century and then getting all the characteristics. So as we started with this explanation yesterday, then we weren't able to see the 5th century. We were only able to see the start of the 5th century, but now we're going to fill in the rest of the other 66 years that this century lasts. So it first starts with Alaric, right? Alaric, remember, that was the leader of the Visigothic Confederacy, the Visigothic, sorry, Foederati, and they were used by the Roman Empire to face the invasion of Attila the Hun, and that is going to be something that is going to last a lot of years, because the empire that was being led by Attila the Hun, and remember that that empire was actually a tribal confederacy, but it became a really great empire, is going to be surrounding the whole Roman Empire, the both sides of the Roman Empire, both the Western and the Eastern Empire are going to be surrounded by Attila. So the Visigoths are going to be these armed, well, they are going to be the army that Rome is going to be using against Attila. So Alaric, remember that, sacked Rome, and after sacking Rome, he continued towards the south of Italy, and he was trying to conquer this little island here that is called Sicily. And Sicily, I really don't know why, if you ask me, but Sicily is going to be very important in history, and it is going to be a point of reunion for many cultures, and it is going to be uh, a point of desire for many societies that are going to be going through these territories. So Alaric was trying to reach all the south of Italy and was trying to conquer Sicily, but he was unable, because over here in this region he got sick and he died. So everything ended for Alaric in that point. So he was succeeded by Ataulf, and Ataulf, and if you ask me, Ataulf is the origin of the name Aethelwolf, that is going to be really common throughout the Middle Ages, mainly with the Saxons, and yes, mainly with the Saxons. Um, but as we can see, this may very well be a Visigothic name, and this has a reason, because most of these Foederati, most of these peoples that are going to be entering Rome and that are going to be allowed to live in Rome are coming from this part over here, from what is now today Germany. So over here, of course. So this is going to be really, as I was telling you, this is no surprise, because also the Saxons are from this region over here, so they have a common origin. And if you ask me again, Athaulf would be the origin of the name Aethelwolf, that is going to be common within the Middle Ages with the Saxons. So Athaulf is going to be the first thing that he does is that he stops the campaign that Alaric started towards the south of Rome, and he's going to be just the opposite way. He's going to be changing directions towards the north part of the empire. He's going to be directing his efforts towards Gaul. And remember that Gaul was this territory that was conquered by Julius Caesar. So he left the south of Italy, and he directed his efforts to Gaul. And over here, he's going to play a very important part in Roman history, because he is going to be giving his support and taking his support of to many emperors. He's going to be supporting some emperors, and he's going to be taking the support to some emperors. So he is going to be kind of a puppet master in here, because the thing is going to be the real main thing is going to be as follows. Rome has lost its power, mainly the Western Empire, that is this red part of the empire, has lost its power. Remember that most of their military power now relies on the Foederati, and this is on the military services that all these peoples that are going to be allowed to live in the empire are going to be paying to Rome. And now the empire is not going to be inherited sorry, as it used to be before, by the previous emperor adopting someone that was good for the job, and then this guy that was adopted by the previous emperor is going to be ruling, and afterwards he's going to be adopting another guy, and he's going to be calling him his son even if he isn't his son, and this guy is going to be ruling Rome. That is not going to be the procedure anymore. Now in this point, it is going to be the army that is going to be choosing the emperors. They are going to be saying, no, now we support this guy as the emperor, and the army is going to have now the saying on who is going to be an emperor.